The PS3 has some great games such as The Last of Us, God of War 3 and the Uncharted series, which were all originally developed on the PS3 and released on the PS3, but have since been remastered or remade for later consoles, so are available on the PS4 or the PS5. However, some games are still locked to the PS3, and the only way that you can play these games nowadays is if you still own a PS3. I wanted to make this video to kind of highlight some of my favourite console locked games for the PS3 and ones that I'd recommend purchasing if you do have a PS3, or if you're still considering getting a PS3 if you haven't got one yet. These are some of the games that you should get if you do end up purchasing a PS3. I feel like it's quite right starting this video with one of the probably biggest games that people still own a PS3 for or end up getting a PS3 for, and that's Metal Gear Solid 4. Like I say, it is a game that I feel is part of the reason I ended up getting a PS3 again. With the recent release of the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection on newer gen consoles, this is now one of the only Metal Gear games locked to older gen consoles. There are rumours of a Volume 2 HD collection which may include this, which would be nice, but currently this is all rumours. But hey, you know, there's been the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, like I just said, and the HD collection 1, which have both done very well. So I would be very, very surprised if this game still remains a PS3 exclusive forever. I doubt it will. But until then, this is the only way that you can play this game. But yeah, I absolutely loved this game back in the day. I completed it when I first owned a PS3. Like I said, I solved my first PS3 like 10 plus years ago. So it's been quite a long time since I actually played this. So I do intend on going through this again, just because I kind of forgot basically pretty much everything that happens in this game, apart from probably a few major points, but that's kind of not the point. But yeah, I still feel it holds up really nicely on the PS3 in terms of graphics. In some sections it can run 60, but a lot of the time it'll likely stay around 30 FPS, sometimes dropping below depending on what appears on screen. Regardless of that happening, it's still worth playing this because it is basically a masterpiece, and you can basically usually get it below £10. I bought my version for £6, and I think that is an absolute bargain. If you've played a Kojima game before, you probably already know what you are getting yourself in for with this. It's a long ride of gameplay mixed with super long cutscenes, and if that is your kind of jam, like it is for me, then pick this one up. It still, to this day, has the longest cutscene in a video game, with the final cutscene being a whopping 71 minutes. Yes, that is over an hour long of cutscene. So yeah, make sure to get some popcorn ready for that one. Next up, the God of War games. So we have God of War 3, Ascension, the HD Collection 1 and HD Collection 2. As mentioned at the start of the video, God of War 3 got remastered for the PS4. But I mean, you can still get God of War 3 for the PS3 if you don't have a PS4 or PS5. There is God of War Ascension, which is available only on the PS3 right now. And like I said, there is the God of War HD Collection. Obviously you can get 1 and 2 on the PS2 and the Vita, but if you want it in HD with better frame rate and trophy support, then the PS3 version is the way to go. As for Ascension, it's one of the lesser rated God of War games, but I think even the worst rated God of War games on the market are still 1,000 times better than a lot of other games, especially ones getting released nowadays. With how mainstream the newer God of War games have become, it's quite likely that a lot of people have missed out on the original Greek mythology games from the PS2 and PS3 era, and I feel like if you enjoyed the newer games, you need to try these to see Kratos in all his old form and all his old glory. The newer games have a lot of mentions of the original games, so you could probably start putting pieces of the puzzle together when you kind of play the originals, and you might get a lot of the references that were originally made in the newer games. If you've never played the original God of War games, these differ a lot compared to the new games. It's got completely different gameplay with a lot more spammy way of initiating combat and combos and all that kind of stuff, and it's mixed with quick time events during boss battles, which are super cinematic. And It's Judgy Bean. And then mixed with quick time events during boss battles, which are super cinematic, and they still hold up amazingly to this day. And as I mentioned with Metal Gear Solid 4, Metal Gear Solid 4 is kind of, like I said, it's likely to get a remake or included in the HD Collection too. For God of War, there were so many rumours of like the Greek mythology games being remastered for the 20-year God of War anniversary, and then during like the State of Play, they just announced like a special edition PS5 controller. Get this awesome controller, which is white with a little bit of red that looks like Kratos. Yeah, kind of like a slap in the face for a lot of God of War fans who are really wanting, you know, the Greek mythology games kind of like either remastered or remade and brought to the newer consoles. I mean, like I said, you can still play them on the PS3. They still hold up really well. And they run really well and look amazing. But I mean, a lot of us wanted like a remake or something. Come on, give us something, not a freaking controller. Who wants this controller? God damn it. Next up is Infamous 1 and Infamous 2, and the DLC as well. So the Infamous series has 4 games in total, 5 if you include the DLC for the second game, with the first and second game being locked to the PS3. The developers Sucker Punch are very much stuck in the Ghost of Tsushima and Yotai era, so I can't really see them going back in the near future to remaster these games. So they are worth grabbing on the PS3 if you have one. I'm yet to touch the second game, as I'm still playing through the first one and very much enjoying it still. It's still one of the highest rated game series for the PS3. And if you search for the best PS3 games, this series is most likely going to appear. Yeah, I think the majority of the people will basically say Infamous 1 or Infamous 2. But yeah, I'm looking forward to completing the first game to see what the second one has in store for me. I've only heard good things so far, but the first one itself I've just been really enjoying. The choice between good and evil is nice. I've gone with the good side myself, and I've so far really enjoyed the progression, even quite far into the game. I'm still unlocking new skills, which feel like quite a nice addition. And yeah, it just still feels like you're genuinely getting good upgrades later on into the game. But yeah, hopefully one day they do come back to this and remaster it for the newer consoles. I constantly felt like the FPS could do with being a lot more stable. There was a lot of drops and just general frame pacing issues. But it's something you kind of get used to as you play the game, and you kind of learn to ignore it. But I think when you kind of jump on it from playing a PS5 game, which I did, I think I was playing like Horizon Zero Dawn, and then I came onto the PS3 and played a bit of Infamous, and you could really feel the 30 FPS with constant drops below that. And it wasn't the nicest feeling, but I still feel like you can get used to that, bypass it, and just play and enjoy the game despite those issues. But yeah, a remaster would be nice, or remake, but I like I say, I don't see these developers going back to the Infamous series, just because Ghost of Tsushima and Yotai are probably bringing them a lot of money that they don't want to ignore nowadays. Next up is Littlebigplanet 1 and Littlebigplanet 2. So for a series which was one of the PlayStation mascots at one point, it's kind of sad to see that there has been no main game series since 2014. That is ignoring Sackboy Big Adventure. I'm specifically talking about Littlebigplanet. And yeah, it's kind of unlikely for anything to be released nowadays. But yeah, having recently played the second game with my partner, I feel like the game still holds up really nicely. And it's just got so much fun still to be had. Yeah, the online for these no longer works, so you don't have any custom levels to play. But the base games and levels tend to be more than enough fun and enough content there to warrant getting these games alone. And if you have someone to play these games with nowadays, they are still some of the most fun that you can have in a co-op game like ever. It's so fun. There's a lot of customization to your Sackboys, and yeah, it's one game that I've always come back to with my fiance. We both really enjoy this game. It's it's just very fun, and I do hope they return to this series at some point, because I feel like with how games have progressed since the last Little Big Planet game, so Little Big Planet 3, I feel like there's so much more they could be doing with this game series. Maybe not go how they did with Sackboy and make it like a third-person platformer like they did there, but stick to the original Little Big Planet kind of formula. That's the word I'm looking for. Next up is Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo 6. I feel like these aren't really deal breakers, since you can kind of get Gran Turismo 7 on the PS5 if you have like a later console nowadays. That is an option. But I feel like if you have a PS3 and you want a racing game, then Gran Turismo 5 and 6, they are there, and they are cheap. I think I saw Gran Turismo 5 for £3, and I got Gran Turismo 6 for £5, something like that. But yeah, moving on to the game, the graphics are still excellent. I think every Gran Turismo game it's just well known for having excellent graphics. I think they hold up really well nicely still, especially so many years after like Gran Turismo 5 was released. I think that was in like 2010, so 15 years ago. The graphics are still excellent. And yeah, what's not to love about repeating the driving school on another Gran Turismo game? That's like some of the most fun ever, like in a game, like ever, period. Yeah, they're kind of grindy, but like you just can't help yourself going through the school and doing like the first challenge where it's like brake at 100 meters, miss it for the first few times before you get gold, etc, etc. But yeah, there are still arguments as to which of these PS3 games out of 5 and 6 are the better game. But I reckon if you see either of these games in your local store or on eBay, you can't go wrong with either of them. Killzone 2 and Killzone 3. I mentioned in my first PS3 video, but I booted Killzone 2 up and was absolutely blown away by how amazing this game still looks to this day. I really loved the vibes of these games. They're really cheap to get now, and similar to the Little Big Planet series, it's not had a mainline game for many years. The last being Shadowfall on the PS4 in 2013. So I cannot really imagine there being another game in this series, especially since Guerrilla Games have kind of moved on to the Horizon series, which is doing very well in itself, and they're very good games anyway. But hey, I mean, I would love them to kind of go back to these games and give them a little try again, and maybe remaster like the first three and put them on the PS5, or even just a new game. It would be nice, but I just cannot see them doing well. Like, I can see them not returning to these games, so I think you're kind of safe if you do want to get these games just for your PS3. I just cannot see them being remastered or brought to the newer consoles. But yeah, due to that, it is definitely worth getting these games, especially if you just want to play it on the PS3. If you manage to somehow get a cheap copy as well, there is also the there is also the Killzone trilogy, which is Killzone 2 and 3, which are exclusive to the PS3. But it also includes the first game, which was originally on the PS2. I think it's in the HD, and yeah, I mean, you can just play, I guess, at a more stable FPS. It's quite a rare trilogy to find nowadays, and it's quite expensive, so I doubt you would be able to get it for cheap. And Killzone 2 and 3 alone are cheap enough, so you can't really go wrong with just getting them alone. I feel like the shooting on this game series differs a lot from modern shooters, where some people may not enjoy what Killzone is like. It feels like quite heavy to slug some of the guns around. It's like not as responsive as you'd expect from like a Battlefield or a Call of Duty. But overall, I just love it. I love the gritty nature of the game world. And like I said, you can pick this up for super cheap, so you can't really give them a miss. I'm yet to play the third game, but I plan on getting through the second one first at some point before eventually moving on to the third game. And I've heard that you can play the third one with the PS Move, so I kind of want to do that at some point. Yeah, so I'll probably do that whenever I end up completing the second game. Resistance 1 to 3. Similar to Infamous, if you search for the top exclusive games for PS3, the Resistance series will 9.5 times out of 10, all 3 of them will be included. I'm still only playing through the first one so far. I've not touched the second or third one, but I've heard amazing things about them. But yeah, as a British guy, I love the idea of waltzing around during World War II in England fighting off an alien species. From what I've played so far, it has been super fun, and you can pick up alien weapons and drive tanks and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to kind of sinking my teeth into this game and seeing what other weapons and stuff there are, especially later on into the game. I can imagine maybe you might be able to drive like an alien vehicle, God knows. Similar to the other games that I've mentioned throughout this video, they are super cheap to buy, basically. I think I got Resistance 1 for like £1, and then Resistance 2 was I think a few pounds as well. Next up is the Motorstorm series. So this, as a throwback, was actually the first game that I played ever on the PS3 back in the day. And I just I remember so well being absolutely blown away by just the dirt deformation. So as you're going around the track multiple times, like by the second and then the third lap, the track feels just so different just because of how much the dirt has changed because all the cars have driven over it. And I feel like you have to take so many different routes because of that. And then, yeah, because of the vehicles that you drive in the different classes, and with it being mixed class races, there's always a different route that you have to take depending on what car that you're driving in. So like if there's a bunch of dirt, a bunch of mods, you can't go through that with your bike. Well, you can, but because of how much dirt there is, you will go so much slower. Just because of that idea with the multi-class vehicles and the different routes to take and specific routes being better for specific vehicles, I feel like it's still quite a unique game to play in sense of a racing game. Yeah, it's still a very unique type of game, and I really wish that they revisited the series. I cannot imagine doing so nowadays. It's been quite a long time. Similar to Infamous and Killzone, they've not made a game in this series for a long time. But hey, you never know. You never know. I can't really mention the Motorstorm series without mentioning the soundtrack. It's got one of the coolest soundtracks. I remember Pendulum, and I think it's Quemist? Stompbox? Bangers. Absolute bangers for days. Cat. Well, that's it, I think, for the PS3 games exclusives. Yeah, I think a lot of these are ones that I've played and ones that I know are really good. I very much imagine I've missed quite a few games there. Some that you like. Any that I've missed? Let me know in the comments below. I'd like to know what you think of the list that I've made and the ones that I've missed. I know there is a few. I think there's a few Ratchet and Clank games. I think I've played like one Ratchet and Clank game in my life. I've never touched them after that. And I think there's some like Sly Cooper games and stuff. Also games, I've never touched a Sly Cooper game. So I assume they could have been included, but I don't really want to talk about a game or game series that I don't know about. I just don't know about them. I'm sorry. But hey, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll try and keep an eye out for one of those games if they're cheap and give it a go myself, because I am very open to trying new games. I've already got a humongous backlog. What's the harm in adding to it? But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Rate and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you in the next one. See you later.